Judges and jurors, this is internet personality Vangelus, and 3A's 112 scale Judge Dredd has finally dropped, as has his Lawmaster. This is specifically the Dredd and Lawmaster box set, provided for this review by 3A, and sadly, this time, box set means ships in a box that has 2 solo toys inside. It's the world's most petty thing to gripe about, but I was looking forward to a cool, combined, resealable package, because guess what? Dredd's on a giant 3A blister card, so get those X-Acto knives ready for some tactical trimming. I miss that super brief era of 3A 112 figures coming out in smaller, form-fitting shoebox packaging. I say super brief, but it looks like it's coming back with the new Action Portable Wave 2. I don't know. The Lawmaster's in a big, lovely foam inlay brick, and that is a good thing. It's totally resealable. Maybe it would have been cool to have a cutout in the foam that one could remove to insert Dredd and his accessories. Maybe would have been cool. 3A's 6-inch Dredd is based on the work of Carlos Ezquerra, Brian Bolland, and Mike McMahon, meaning he's essentially a retro Dredd pastiche. As a career Dredd casual, I kind of get what that means. Everything about this piece is rough edges and wrinkly puff over top of an articulated buck that, I think, is just a modification of the usual 3A 6-inch body. I'm not sure though. Check the comments to see if I've been corrected. The bodysuit is made from a vinyl-feeling faux leather material, and I think it has paint weathering done on it? His sculpted pieces most definitely do, muddying the greens and burnishing the golds. The metal chain attached to his badge pulls off a really nice color match, but man, do I wish it were a little bit longer. It never gets to properly hang and dip down naturally. The zipper does a real decent job of blending in, getting as thin as can be, and using a similar dark color to the surrounding bodysuit material. The face of Dredd is a meaty block of square-jawed scowl with a well-rendered helmet on top. I can't help but feel like it's a bit squashed though. Could have done with an extra spot of tallness on the top end of his chapeau. 3A's 6-inch Dredd has got a body that feels a lot like their usual 6-inch buck to a degree. There's a ball socket joint at the top of the neck, which allows for all kinds of lovely stuff, especially in conjunction with the forward-backward hinge at the base of the neck, so he can just, like, rock out! His shoulder pads are on what appear to be ball socket stalks coming out of his shoulders, so they can get a little bit of inward-outward, upward-down rotation. They basically are pretty good at staying out of the way of things, because he's got a ball socket and/or universal shoulder connection, with forwards, backwards, in, out, a little bit of butterfly wiggle. That sound is kind of annoying. He's got double-jointed elbows that can't quite make their way around the combination of the suit and the hard plastic elbow pad band. There is a, well, this part of his glove can just swivel by itself. There is a ball socket wrist joint. It's just a full-on ball socket. Feels really good. Like, it's got a tight smoothness. And then it's connected by a stick. And that tight smoothness is really great for posing, but it's also why often the stick comes out rather than the ball socket pop when I want to swap his hands. His torso has got a little bit of crunch and lean, like a mid-torso joint, and then there's also a waist joint. They're both ball socket type joints, and the range on them, like, that's pretty heavy. I kind of like it. His suit, it's got, as you can see, it's just baggy enough to allow for a lot of that. The feel of the suit, it's got this PVC vinyl-ish feel. It's stitched, so maybe there's a bit of leather quality to it, or at least fake leather, but the suit is thin, but I'm not sure if it feels like it's gonna rip. Like, you know, we'll see again over time. But there's enough bagginess to it that I feel that, like, the thinness of the suit was accounted for in the articulation, and that shows when you go to the hips. Like, this guy can kick forward. He can't kick back due to the butt plate, but he can super duper kick forward. He can do a decent set of splits. Like, his gusset allows for, you know, a respectable wide-legged spread. There is a dedicated thigh swivel. There are double-jointed knees in here. Once again, the hard plastic nature of the bands on his padding gets in the way of that stuff. There is, well, the top of the boot is a separate piece, so it can just wiggle by itself. But down here, here's the pièce de résistance for a 6-inch Dredd. These ball socket ankles are friggin' glorious. They're almost as smooth and tight as the wrists. Definitely well enough for posing. Like, this is how much you can get going on with his wide-legged potential. And then they've got some forwards and backwards motion as well. These are really, really good ankles. And I not only love these ankles because the other 6-inch Dredd that I recently reviewed had a lot of ankle problems, but 3A's 6-inch figures I found often had ankle problems. A lot of their stuff in the portable scale, the ankles were often the weakest point, like the Pop Bots, the Tomorrow Kings with the double ball joint ankles that would get pretty darn loose. The grunts and World War Robot guys who just had sculpted boots that couldn't tilt. This Dredd feels like a monumental step up from that stuff. And that makes me super happy, and I would love to see this style of design move its way over to World War Robot. On the portable scale, at least, if that stuff is still coming out, because it's what makes this Dredd fun to pose and fun to do just, like, you know, kookier stuff with, or, you know, Iron Man punching type stuff with. That's right, we've worked it into one more video. The visual meme is quite literally dead, but we worked it into one more. What are you gonna do about it? End my posability segment? Wait, where are you going? 3A's Dredd includes 3 weapons, a Day Stick, a Lawgiver Mark I, and a Lawgiver Mark II. The Mark I is able to store in the holster on Dredd's right boot, and the Mark II sadly cannot, due to its extra bulk. All 3 weapons look pretty sharp, but the Mark II in particular stands out with its extra paint apps beyond simple weathering and grit. 3A's Dredd also includes 4 pairs of hands, and they are legitimate pairs. The fists of Dredd are able to smash the face of any dark judge that gets in their way, and switching them out is a simple ball joint pop and swap. However, it's very easy to accidentally pull the whole ball out of the wrist by accident, and the combination of a swiveling glove piece and a shifting bodysuit sleeve makes things feel slippery and sloppy more often than not. Once you get the hang of it, you can swap the fists for regular open hands, which are fairly calm and authoritative. There are a pair of gun-holding hands, which means Dredd can dual-wield his generational Lawgivers. And then there are a pair of regular grippy hands, perfect for brandishing the Day Stick. Man, do I wish the Day Stick and Mark II Lawgiver had somewhere to store on Dredd's belt. At least he can hold both at once with the Mark I stash in his boot. 3A went as retro as possible in providing their Dredd with a ride, producing a custom-modified Lawmaster Mark I with Mike McMahon-styled bike cannons on either side of the front wheel. It's a great sculpt, matched with a lovely and nuanced paint job. The metallic parts are all nice and burnished, but the bike body bits are done up in a contrasting gloss black and red. The real treat is in how all of this was then weathered, from sponged dirt to subtle nicks and scratches. This is the right way to use silver paint streaks to make something look like it's been used in the battlefield. The rubberized tire treads are realistically caked in muddy brown, and the corners of the front wheel cover are so well done I can feel the weathering under my fingertip. That front wheel, by the way, can totally turn left and right. But can Dredd ride this bad boy? Yes he can. The hardest part is getting his grippy hands around the handlebars, and if it gets too difficult, you can always use the gun grippy hands instead. Naturally, they'll be a looser fit, so experiment and see what you enjoy the most. 4 AG1 batteries can pop into the fairly cramped space behind the Eagle, and you can flip the switch to activate the bright white headlights. 2 more AG1 batteries can pop into a much more easily accessed space up top, with another flippable switch that illuminates the top headlight and control console with more bright white light. It's a solid and straightforward feature. I just wish there were a way to activate everything without removing access panels and exposing the batteries. Also, it's a shame that the remaining 4 lights in the body don't light up, since they look a whole lot like they do. I readily admit, I clawed a little bit on parts of the bike to see if maybe there was something hidden in there that was left out of the instructions, but as far as I can tell, no, they are not light-up capable. 3A's Dredd is aimed squarely at fans of the iconic original 70s-80s comics, and I suppose that should have been obvious to me out of the gate, what with most of the other 1/12/2000 AD toys on the horizon being Judge Death and his pals. This project spearheaded by a sense of genuine fandom for classic Dredd style and lore. He and the Lawmaster hit all those aesthetic marks pretty darn well, so if that's your Dredd preference and you're a toy collector, you've probably been jazzed about this long before I even knew it was coming out. As a toy, Judge Dredd is a fairly solid 6-inch 3A piece. He feels much better overall than many of the World War Robot Portable and Tomorrow King 6-inchers I own, in particular thanks to his tight and mobile ankles. His body does, however, still have that particular slim feel that 3A's small-scale humans tend to have, making me want to treat the toy with the slightest of kid gloves. As for the Lawmaster, it's a darn fine bike. Speaking as a Figuarts motorcycle veteran, it's got the right size and shape, and the weathered paint job does a ton of work to try to justify the price. Really, I just wish the switches for the lights were somehow hidden in the surface sculpt rather than requiring the removal of plates to turn things on and off. And man, it sure would be nice if batteries were included. I mean, now I've got a big rack of AG1s that should not die before the end of 2017, but I always hold out hope that there will be a little baggie of them waiting for me in the box. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and there's only one thing to do after reviewing 2 consecutive judges and 2 consecutive Lawmasters. My friends, I think the time has come for a little bit of double Dredd.